Have you ever been told you should just love yourself more? But on the inside, it feels almost impossible to actually do that. That maybe logically you know that you should value yourself, but emotionally it just doesn't feel true. You might find yourself apologizing constantly, feeling guilty whenever you rest, or consistently needing reassurance that people are not upset with you. And if that's the case, it's not that something is wrong with you. It's actually because of what you were taught about yourself growing up. Hello, friends, and welcome back to my channel here at True Reality Life, where we talk about the true realities of the life around us beautiful, ugly, and everything in between. Today, we're going to talk about why self love feels so hard for some people. You hear the phrase everywhere: love yourself, all the importance put on self love. Even I've talked about how important self love is to your mental health journey. But for so many people, especially those who grew up in an environment that didn't feel emotionally safe, where there was constantly criticism or emotional neglect, self love does not come naturally for you. So, today we're going to cover how childhood experiences shape the way that we view ourselves, why some people struggle to feel worthy even if they know that they should, and how healing means relearning how to love yourself and treat yourself with compassion. So, I know in the grand scheme of things, self love overall sounds simple, but it's not so easy for everyone. It may just seem like, oh, it's a mindset. You have to stay positive and love yourself. It's just that easy. But it's not. For those of us who grew up in homes that did not feel safe, it feels unnatural or uncomfortable to love ourselves. This is because our brains develop beliefs about ourselves from a very early age. So that means if you grew up hearing things like, you're too sensitive, stop crying before I give you something to cry about, why can't you do anything right? And by consistently hearing these kind of things, especially from our parents who are looking up to as role models and inspiration of how to be as a human being, hearing these negative comments is creating an inner voice for us, our biggest critic. So, how we naturally will respond to situations is deeply influenced by how we're responded to as we're developing our neural connections growing up. So instead of having compassion, it's often led to criticism. Our inner voice has become our biggest critic. So I want you to think about when you make a mistake or something doesn't go right, what does your inner voice sound like? Oftentimes, it may sound like somebody that you grew up with, your parent, even. You might hear the exact same things in your head that you were told growing up. So, how is it that our brain was wired this way from childhood criticisms? From a young age, our brains were created to ensure our safety. It's going to prioritize safe environments over anything else. So, being judged or criticized often makes us feel unsafe, especially as a little kid who's relying on our parents to make us feel safe and loved and important. So, when a child grows up in an environment where there's constant criticisms or emotional dismissal, it reflects to us that we must be perfect in order to be accepted. And this is where perfectionism comes from. I have a video about that if you'd like to go watch that one, all about perfectionism. It also makes you feel like your feelings are a problem, that crying is a burden to somebody else. So our brain naturally tries to rewire so that we aren't expressing our emotions openly, to where we're trying to perform at a level of perfectionism so that we can feel loved and accepted and overall safe with the people around us. But over time, it creates adults who constantly overthink, who fear disappointing others, and often you may feel responsible for other people's emotional reactions to things. Just take a minute to think about, as a child, when you made a mistake, did you feel safe or did you feel ashamed and fearful of being criticized? So, if you're one of these adults who has grown up in an environment that did not feel emotionally safe, and you might have an inner voice that's often your worst critic. I want you to be compassionate with yourself because it's often your nervous system taking over control before you even have a chance to think about your responses. The way you react to stressful situations is not a conscious choice. With practice, you can be more diligent to rewire your nervous system to maybe react a different way, to react more calmly, to reassure yourself that you are, in fact, in a safe environment. But unless you've done that conscious relearning and rewiring of your nervous system is taking control and reacting in more of a flight or fight response to any stressful situation. And this is an automatic response. This is not something that you have to think about. Hey, I'm nervous. Hey, I'm scared. Body turn on and react in a fight or flight response. Your body, your nervous system was trained to do this. And it's because its intention is to keep you safe in any environment, even if that means emotionally safe. It doesn't always have to be a physical threat. Yes, once upon a time, way back in the day, we were in environments we had to depend on life or death situations where there were physical threats constantly. But now, in a society where we might have more physical safety, it has now become an emotional and mental reaction to still automatically turn on this fight or flight response for feeling emotionally unsafe, criticized, judged, anything that's going to cause an increase in cortisol, our stress hormone, that ultimately will make us feel unsafe and our body will feel the need to react to protect us. So when something feels overwhelming or triggering or emotionally unsafe, our body is going to turn on this fight or flight response, release more cortisol to increase our blood sugar, to give us the energy to either run or to fight. So that might be why you're feeling a little jittery. Whenever you get anxious and worked up or scared, you might shake your leg and shake your arm or need to fidget constantly because your body is sending energy to your limbs to either fight or run. And you would need that energy in those situations. So that adrenaline rush that you usually get, right? From stressful situations, your body is turning that on, even in emotionally stressful circumstances. So there are four different responses you might have. So let's just run through them. You can be in fight mode, where you might get defensive. This is where arguments usually come out, especially within marriages. We get very defensive and want to speak up for ourselves. Then there's the flight response, where you might feel the need to get away or avoid the situation, like people who need to walk into another room or get in your car and drive away during a stressful situation. Then there's other two that are a little less commonly discussed is the freeze and fawning mode. So freeze is where you literally shut down. You don't want to talk. You just sit there and try to avoid all emotions to protect yourself. You literally put up all the walls. And then there's fawn, where you're more of a people pleaser, that you sacrifice your own emotional needs in order to please other people to make you feel more safe. And these four reactions happen so automatically to a stressful situation. It's almost like your body takes over and says, no, I got it from here, and goes on autopilot. It takes over control. So, whenever you have the high cortisol, high adrenaline going, you're in fight or flight response, it turns off your critical thinking. Your brain literally does not send any more energy into your what's called frontal cortex of your brain that's responsible for your critical thinking. So you're just responding automatically in order to create a safer environment and get yourself to safety. So in those moments, your brain is not thinking, hey, what is the best response right now? It's thinking, how do I get safe? Right? If your spouse feels like a threat, how do I get safe from that? I'm going to get defensive. I'm going to walk away. I'm going to get out of this unsafe situation, which is often why it's very hard for us to stay calm and be able to communicate our needs appropriately in order to have cordial conversation, productive conversation, being able to set boundaries with our partners, with other people in our lives, within our jobs, our careers, anything like that, because we're in this hyper aroused state of trying to just stay safe. And that's it. We're not thinking of, hey, how can I make sure this is mutually beneficial, where I'm communicating my needs in a safe and respectful way. We're literally just prioritizing ourselves. Nothing else matters except our safety. So, as a child, when our brain is first developing and building those neural connections, right? As a baby from years 1 through 5, your brain is almost doubling in neurotransmitters and neural connections every single day. That's why it's so easy for kids to learn and grow. They grow up so fast during that age. So, if you grew up in an environment where emotions weren't safe, you couldn't express yourself without getting judged, criticized, or put down, where every mistake made you feel like you weren't good enough, or maybe you had to feel hyper aware of others. You had to constantly be trying to regulate your parents because they were in such a state of hyper arousal or dysregulation that you constantly had to be aware of their emotions and put your emotions on the back burner in order to feel safe, because they may have overreacted, they would take it out on you, you were blamed for everything. And I'm not going to say, oh, it's not their fault, because there are reasons that our parents and different generations were brought up, because there wasn't a deep research into how to raise children, how we're reacting, our nervous system responses like we have today. So most parents of different generations were just raising kids the way that they knew how. Yes, they could have taken responsibility and tried to improve and be better, but at the same time, they didn't know much better at the time of. So now we have the opportunity to learn and grow with our nervous system and embrace the science and research we have to back up our growth and our reactions to things so that we can be better people for ourselves and for future generations to come. But as children, we were made to feel small. We were made to feel like we were second priority, that we were not important, that we were burdens to our parents. And so our nervous systems had to learn how to survive, which often meant we were growing up in survival mode constantly because we were having to be aware of our environments, prioritize others' emotions over our own in order to feel emotionally safe and accepted. And that can be exhausting. To constantly be on alert is exhausting. As adults, since we're running on fumes, that means any small situation that triggers our stress response, we're going to react very big. We're going to have huge reactions to something that might seem small to somebody else because we're already going constantly. We're burnt out from always being in survival mode. And so our body is like, got to stay safe. So you're going to react in any way you can to protect yourself, because we've grown up our whole lives thinking everybody is a threat because we've never felt safe enough or accepted enough by just existing and being our true selves. But I want you to realize these big reactions are not because you're too sensitive. It's because your body is in survival mode. Your nervous system is doing what it's had to do since you were small and protect you and keep you safe from stressful situations, from not being loved or accepted by others. It's doing what it knows how to. But I'm curious, whenever you're in a stressful situation, which reaction do you naturally go to? Is it fight, flight, freeze, or maybe you're a people pleaser? Comment down below which one you are. So, as we go through everyday life, we may intellectually understand what self love is and what it should look like. You may read about it, talk about it, or maybe even encourage other people to practice it. Yet emotionally, you still don't feel good enough. You don't feel worthy of this love. You feel like a burden to other people. You feel like you have to earn love and acceptance. But self love isn't just thoughts or a mindset that you can practice. It's something your nervous system has to learn from experiences. So if you didn't experience a lot of love and affection, your nervous system isn't going to know that that feels safe or that that's even a thing at all, because it's constantly been focused on trying to protect you from the external environments that didn't feel safe. So, if you didn't experience that emotional safety growing up, your brain is most likely still functioning from survival mode, even today as an adult, even if you're no longer in that unsafe environment. So, how do you know if your body is still responding in this survival mode? If you've never moved on from the childhood experiences of not feeling like you were good enough. This may look like this may look like apologizing when you didn't do anything wrong. Maybe you feel guilty for resting or relaxing. Or do you constantly need reassurance from other people? Or feel like a burden for just existing? If any of these are true for you, I want you to realize this is not a weakness. It is because your body is in survival mode. These are survival strategies that your nervous system has implemented to make you feel safe. It's at a basis of insecurity where we have to learn to be more confident in ourselves, to love ourselves in a way that reassures our nervous system that we are safe, that we are no longer in those high stress, judgmental environments that involve so much criticism, that we didn't feel like we're ever enough. But you are enough. You are no longer in those environments. You have the power to rewire your brain, to feel safe, to recognize that you are worthy of love, that you don't have to exist in survival mode anymore. And as always, I want to try to include a faith connection here. So if you have a relationship with God, stay tuned. If not, feel free to fast forward a little bit. I want to bring this up that our worth was never meant to come from other people's opinions. There is only one judgment that matters, and that is God's. And if you think about in the Bible, Psalm 139 says that we were fearfully and wonderfully made, which means we were intentionally created to be the people that we are today. How many things had to go perfectly right for us to exist? From conception to pregnancies to birth to existing to whatever age that you are right now. That is a miracle to have happened, which means you are here for a reason. Your existence is intentional. Your value was established from your creation before anybody ever had the chance to criticize you, to dismiss you, to make you feel emotionally unsafe. Your value is beyond all of that. It was handcrafted and delivered to you by God Himself. So, healing is learning to replace your internal voice with the truth of who you were created to be. This week, I want you to pay attention to how you speak to yourself and ask yourself, would I say this to somebody that I love? If the answer is no to that question, I want you to try to replace whatever your inner voice said with something a little more compassionate, something you might say to a little kid. Reparent that inner child that feels nervous and scared and not good enough. If you find yourself in a situation where you're reacting very defensively, I don't want you to come from a place of judgment towards yourself. I want you to be compassionate and consider, what is my nervous system trying to protect me from right now? Why am I responding the way that I am? And I want you to recognize that self love does not happen overnight. It is a consistent practice, and it starts by just not being so hard on yourself, by understanding that your body is just trying to protect you and that you are no longer in that unsafe environment that your brain learned all of these survival techniques. They no longer serve you. You are capable of rewiring your brain to love yourself, to accept yourself for just existing and being you. Healing the relationship with yourself takes time. It takes practice of unlearning the survival techniques. And something that plays a huge role in this process is boundaries. Many of us were not taught how to set boundaries, or never allowed to explore our own boundaries. So when our body is in survival mode, it's very hard for us to say no, to express our own needs, or protect our emotional space around us. So in the next episode, I want to dive deeper into what boundaries are, why so many of us were never taught how to create boundaries, and how to discover and implement boundaries now as an adult. If this episode resonated with you, please make sure to share it with somebody else and comment down below self love. Thank you guys so much for watching here today. I'll see you guys next time. Love you. Bye.